Today I am finally going to be doing a book haul. I don't really unhaul books that often, to be honest. I maybe unhaul books like, I want to say once a year. The last time I unhauled a book was last April, and I personally like to keep all of my books, even if they're like a 3-star rating, mainly because I am a cover buyer. So if I buy a book because of a cover, then I'm gonna keep it because of said cover, unless I like absolutely hated it. And I'm not like solely a cover buyer. Like if I see a cover that's like so beautiful and I know that it's like a genre I hate, I'm gonna buy it. But um yeah, I just tend to not really get rid of my books. Like I want to build my own library and just have like a bunch of books. Like I personally, for my library, I don't want to keep books that are like just my favorite, especially because I'm such a picky reader that I probably would have like 3 books if I would just keep books that like were my all-time favorite, or like books I rated 5-star. Because y'all know I do not be rating books 5 stars that often. So but it's about time. I was clearing out some space just because I was getting another bookshelf and I didn't want the shelf to be all the way full, which I mean technically is. There's like a missing spot here and then a whole empty like bottom shelf, but like other than that, like yeah, that didn't really happen. Let's just get into this unhaul because I have quite a decent number of books that I am going to be getting rid of. So the first book that I'm going to pull out is Warcross by Marie Lu. This is a book that I was going to buddy read with my best friend Serenity over at Seren Reads, and we used to buddy read a lot of stuff back in like the beginning of my booktube or book Twitter journey days. Like we used to buddy read literally everything, and then we would buddy read books sometimes and neither of us would pick the book up and we just wouldn't text each other for days, like because we both felt so bad. And then we would text each other and be like, I haven't read, and then Serenity would be like, I haven't read either, and then we'd be like, oh okay, good, we're gonna get to this chapter tonight. And it would never happen because we just, I don't know, terrible. But I just realized while reading this that it just wasn't my kind of thing. I just wasn't enjoying it and it was so hard for me to push through it, and I don't really like reading books that I have to push through. So yeah, I didn't really care about the main character. There was this love interest that I was interested in, which is the tech guy, like the one who like created the system. I was kind of interested in seeing her and him, or her and the like her rivals, because I love rivals to lovers, but I don't see the rivals to lovers happening. I feel like she's gonna get with the tech guy, which I don't mind, but I just didn't care about this book and it was just very boring. And I found out that I don't really like Marie Lu. I read her other series, the one with like the We Are Villains or something like that. That's not, whatever book that is, which I got rid of that, like her other series a long time ago with the first book, just because I felt like I don't think I really vibe with Marie Lu's writing, and that's okay, honestly. So I feel like I'm just gonna, she's going on my do not buy author list. Like she came out with a new book recently and I didn't pick it up because I just knew I wasn't gonna really like it no matter how hyped it was. And not gonna lie, I'm very proud of myself for that reason. So the next book I have on this list is A Lesson in Thorns, and this book is about these children who used to live in like, no, they didn't live there. I think their parents worked in like this really fancy house, and they would, I think it only happened once, and they visited each other once, and they all connected, and so their parents died, I believe, and so they go back to this house and like relationships ensue. And I didn't really like this book because I felt like there was a lack of communication, and when there's 6 characters in one book, you really want to focus on the communication, and the lack of communication really annoyed me. Also, I know what happens in the second book, and that plotline just was very disgusting to me, and I don't want to read about that. So I just decided to unhaul this book because I don't see myself continuing along with this series unless the author like somehow fixes what she did in the second book and somehow lets them communicate, because sometimes I don't mind lack of communication, but when you're gonna do 6 characters that are all interested in each other, like you need to focus on communication. Like that needs to be your top priority, in my beliefs at least. The next books that I'm going to be getting rid of are 2 books in a series, and that is Frostblood and Fireblood. This was an arc that Melanie from Melted at Any gave me, and whenever she gives me arcs, she's always like, I don't care what you do with them. Like, always like, you can keep them, you can get rid of them. Like, I honestly don't care. And so, and also I'm getting rid of this one because the back, like there's like, it looks like someone's dog chewed it up back here. And I mean, I typically don't mind books that are beat up, but it just, I don't really care about this book in general. Like, I started reading this book and I felt like it was like every YA fantasy. Like, it, it this book was literally every YA fantasy, and it was very bland, and I didn't really get that far. I don't think I probably could finish this book in a day, actually. I know that I could. Like, I could definitely finish this book in a day, but I'm just very tired of YA and basic YA, and I'm just so I just want to get rid of like the YA that I know is like basic, and ones that like, not everyone has to be unique, but I'm very tired of like the Lost Princess Kingdom type of stories, because I feel like that's all we have. And like, yeah, I love a good Lost Princess Kingdom, but it's just starting to become very repetitive, and like that's the only thing that certain fantasy authors can think of. And it's like, can you come up with something else? Can you come up with something else? Therefore, I will be getting rid of Fireblood as well, just because I don't care about the series, and it's very underrated, which I don't mind underrated books on booktube, but sometimes books being underrated speaks for itself. Like, there's a reason why certain books are underrated. So the next book I'm going to be getting rid of is Daughter of the Pirate King. Now, you guys are probably thinking like, Mayana, like, didn't you love this book? And I did. I absolutely adored this book. I gave this book 4 out of 5 stars. I thought it was so good, but I realized that I don't really like Trisha Levenseller, and the only reason why I'm not getting rid of Warrior of the Wild is because somebody else gifted that to me, and I don't feel comfortable getting rid of books that people gifted to me just because like that was their hard earned money. And I mean, for me, I feel like it's disrespectful to get rid of it. Like, you do what you want to do, but for me personally, I feel like it's very disrespectful to unhaul a book that somebody else bought for you, especially at the time of. Anyways, we're not gonna get into that, but yeah. So I like Daughter of the Pirate King, but I don't see myself reading the second book. I know Mika loved it because she also loved this book, but I just feel like this book could have just stayed here. Like, it could have just been this. And like, Mika said that the second book was good, but I just want to read it as a standalone. Like, I just want to keep it in my mind as a standalone. And I mean, it's a small book, so it wasn't taking up much space, but it was taking up space. And I don't want this book anymore. It's not a book that like I think about every night, and I'm like, this is my all-time favorite book. Like, I gave it 4 stars for a reason, but I just don't really like Trisha Levenseller. The Shadows Between Us is what made me decide that she's just going on my do not buy author list. The next book I have on this list is more of like a possibility than me actually unhauling it, but that is A Curse of Dark and Lonely. When I first read A Curse of Dark and Lonely, I gave this book 5 out of 5 stars. You all know I give like a raving rant review of it, and I think it was just like me. I don't even think it was the hype, because I'm not really the kind of person who like, oh, this book is hyped, I'm gonna give it 5 stars. Like, that's definitely not me. But I read this book, and I think I just liked it so much. And for me, my ratings are more so a feeling. So if I feel like this is a 5-star book, I'm gonna give it 5 stars. Like, I just know when a book is 5 stars, and I thought the same with this one. But I also just, there was a bunch of qualities about this book that I liked, but the more I sat on it and the more I thought about it, there are a bunch of qualities about this book that I didn't care for. Like, I didn't care about the main love interest. I cared about Gray more than I cared about anybody, and he wasn't even a main character. And so I'm not for sure getting rid of this book, but I might get rid of it. I don't know. Like, I want to read the second book, but a lot of people said that the second book wasn't really that good, and that it just didn't live up to the first book, and there was a lot of things about the second book they didn't like. So I think that I might just unhaul this in any ways. I don't really know yet. I don't even know if I'm going to give the second book a try. Like, I say that I don't want to do one thing one time, and then I end up doing it, and it's like, that's the story of me. I can never make up my mind. We all should know this. I'm an indecisive Virgo. So the next 2 books I have on this list are Nevernight and God's Grave. These are both signed editions, and I spray painted them black. I just decided that J. Kristoff did something that I personally just did not agree with, and something that I personally just didn't like. And I don't think that like people should cancel him, and people should hate him, and like people should not read from J. Kristoff ever again. But I personally just discovered that I don't really like J. Kristoff's writing, and I don't really like his stories. Like, every book I've read of J. Kristoff has been a 3-star read, and I haven't read a single 5-star read from him. And I just feel like there are a lot of things about J. Kristoff that I don't care for. Like, his characters are okay. Like, Mia Corvera was not a character that I could see myself staying. Like, she was okay, you know. The plot was like okay. Like, he's just a very okay writer to me. and I feel like if I would have never, I don't know, he was just okay. The next book I'm going to be getting rid of is the Wife Between Us. I said that I wasn't gonna get rid of this book, only because I love the cover. Like, I love the colors, I love the contrast of blue and yellow, and but I hate this book. Like, this was like one of the worst thrillers I've ever read. I think that the plot twist this book had was so stupid. Like, I low-key figured out the plot twist, and mainly because I was confused and I kept confusing myself. And so that's honestly how I figured out what was going on in the book, is because I just kept confusing myself. And so when the book got to the plot twist, I was like, oh, that wasn't like me being confused. Like, ugh. It's very vague. It's very hard to talk about thrillers without spoiling something and like trying to talk about your feelings for a thriller. Or maybe I'm just not good at explaining things. But The Wife Between is about this story of this old wife stalking the new wife and basically trying to warn her that the husband is crazy. And yeah, I don't think I'll ever buy from these authors ever again in general, though. So the next two books on this list are J. Kristoff books, and that will have to be Aurora Rising, which is very sad because you guys know that I love Charlie Bowater, but kind of after the situation that happened on Twitter a couple of days ago with Charlie Bowater, J. Kristoff, maybe it could be J. Kristoff and Amy Kaufman. I don't know. I don't plan on ever reading another J. Kristoff book. I was excited for Empire of the Vampire, but knowing J. Kristoff and his writing, he's gonna make it very boring, and I don't care for it, to be honest. But I mean, I do care for it. I'm probably still gonna read it. Who knows? Maybe become one of my all-time favorite books, and like it'll break my J. Kristoff, like, I don't know, thing that I'm in. But as of right now, I don't care about J. Kristoff. In this book, I'm getting rid of it because Aurora Rising was Illuminate in written form, but somehow still had files, and like I wanted to care about the characters. Like, it was diverse, but just because you throw in like one of each character doesn't really make your book diverse. But also, at least he's trying. Like, diversity, the topic on diversity in books is like another video within itself, so I'm not even really gonna touch on that. But the next book I have is Illuminate, which Illuminate and Aurora Rising are literally the same book. I personally did not like Illuminate. I thought that the love plot aspect was so boring and bland, and I don't really know how many times I can say boring in a different word, but I just did not care about Illuminate. Okay, I just cannot stress that enough. Like, I did not give a single crap about this book, and like I was waiting for the good part to pick in, and then I closed the, like, I read the last page and I was like, oh, so where's the good part? And it wasn't a good part. So I feel like nobody really cares about this book anymore. Like, when I was joining booktube, like when you joined booktube, Illuminate was like one of the first few books you read, and like I feel like now people don't even care about Illuminate. I mean, as they should, but I digress. The next two books I have, Serenity, my best friend who I mentioned earlier, is going to be very upset with me, but I am getting rid of The Thousandth Floor and The Dazzling Heights. So I'm getting rid of these books because there's nothing. This was like the first books I've ever like buddy read on booktube, and the first person I ever buddy read with Serenity from Seren Reads, and this is like the first books I bought on booktube, like when I was like in the booktube community. I just thought these book covers were so beautiful. But this book is about this, like, these really rich people, and they all live in this tower, and it's basically like Gossip Girl meets like sci-fi like ish themes. And so like the richer you are, the like more higher you live. So like me, I'm poor, so I would be living on the bottom, and then like, you know, rich people will live at the top. And yeah, set in like New York. And I thought it was very interesting. Like, this book was good, but it was mediocre, and I found that I don't care about reading the third book. Like, me and Serenity tried to buddy read the third book so many times, and I just don't care. I don't care. And also, there's an incest plot in this book, and it's so hard to read this book without thinking about it. And like, I know that they're not like actual brother and sister. They were like, he was adopted and they grew up together, but I just feel like it's still disgusting, and I don't want to read about that. And also, I just feel like the book didn't go where I thought it would go, and I don't care. Also, another thing, this is petty, but she got these ugly end papers when she could have put a map in her book. I hate when people, like, she literally had the choice. Like, I remember tweeting her something about a map, and she's like, oh, like, I had the choice, but I chose the end papers. Girl, you should have went with the map, because those end papers do not fit the book at all. Like it does not fit the book. So the second to last book I have on this list is The Coldest Girl in Cold Town by Holly Black. I basically picked this book up because I thought that Holly Black was going to be my all-time favorite author, just because she wrote my all-time favorite book, which definitely is not the case. Just because you have an author that you like love and like would die for like that one series, does that mean you have to love all of their work? And I mean, if you do, that's fine as well. Like, I'm not saying you don't have to either. I'm just saying, like, if you're like me and I don't have a favorite author. So if you're like me and you don't have a favorite author, I didn't have an all-time favorite book until The Folk of the Air. So if you're like me and you didn't have like a favorite, you didn't have like an all-time favorite or a brand before you joined BookTube, and then you found that series that you did love, you don't have to love every work by that author. And it's something that I had to teach myself. And I'm into vampires, but I'm more so into them into like paranormal adult romance aspect, just because they have paranormal adult romance things. I just don't care to pick this up. I feel like it's very mediocre. And I think a lot of people who read this like either gave it 3 stars, and the majority gave it 3 stars. Sis, I'm probably gonna give it a star. Like, we all know I hate almost nearly everything, and almost everything I read gets a 3 star in general. So if the general public gave this book 3 stars, who knows what the heck I'll rate it. But I just found out that I just realized that outside of The Folk of the Air, I don't really think that I think that The Folk of the Air is Holly Black's peak, is basically what I'm trying to say. Like, after this, I'll probably read anything she drops, but before this, I don't know. Like, The Darkest Part of the Forest, I have been struggling to read because I just did not care for it. And even the modern fairy tales, I picked up one chapter and was like, I cannot do this. Like, I DNF'd the book. And it hurt my feelings to DNF an author that I thought that I would love. But like I said, you don't need to love everything that an author makes just because it's your like all-time favorite series. And if you do, like, that's okay as well. So the final book on this list is the Genevieve Deception, and I gave this book 3 stars. This book is basically a King Arthur retelling, and it's about this girl who was basically created for King Arthur and Genevieve, and she's like replaced like the real Genevieve. And I thought this book was so boring. Like, I thought I was gonna love it, basically because I was going in thinking that it was Avalon High, so it was like a gender bent Arthur retelling, which I would have appreciated a lot more. But I digress. Um, yeah, so I feel like this book is really boring, and I think that Kirsten White is also on my author do not buy list. Like, I think that her writing is very boring, and this book was just so boring. This book was not good at all. There were no plot twists. There were no. It was just a book. Like, look how short this book is. Like, nothing happens, and I think personally for me, I think that if we would have read, we as like the readers would have like came into this book not knowing that Genevieve was created, and like that would have been a good plot twist, like, because we find that all out within the first 2 chapters, and it was also in the description, so it's not even like a spoiler. So I feel like if we all would have like been reading this and like we thought that Genevieve was like the real Genevieve, and like we were just like reading it, and then we find out like halfway through that she's not, like, I think that that would have been a lot better. I like this book because it had dragons, but I just decided that I wasn't gonna get rid of this book because I just love the art on this cover, but I'm trying to be more strict on myself, even though I do want to keep all the books, that I buy, especially because I spend so much money on books, but I don't want to keep and hoard books, so I have a problem with that. So I don't want to hoard books, and I know that if I keep this book, I'll probably buy the second book and not like it. So I think what I'll do is I'll get rid of this book, and then when the second book comes out, I'll buy the ebook and read the ebook, and then if I like the second book, I'll rebuy the first two, which is a lot more money spent, but it's a higher chance of me not even liking the second book than it is of me liking the second book. So I feel like it's saving myself, because I do have an issue with I do have a shopping addiction. Not even with just books. Like, when I'm not buying books, I'm buying clothes. When I'm not buying clothes, I'm buying room decorations. Like, I have a shopping addiction, and it is a real problem. But at least I acknowledge it. I'm coming to terms with my shopping addiction. So yeah, that's it for this video. Let me know what you think. Is there any books you think I should keep? Haha, just kidding. I'm not keeping any of these books. I'm so sorry. Not really, but yeah, that's it for this video. Please like, comment, and subscribe. And I'll see you guys And my next one